Hello and welcome to the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore Revolut's rocket ship from the inside out, one episode at a time. I'm your host, Alex Carril, and joining me today is Georgian Andrei Oprisor, who's our head of Revolut People, and Joseph Baugh, who is head of operations for Revolut People.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. And, I'm familiar with Revolut People because we use it at Revolut every day. I'm hoping you can tell me a little bit more about how you developed Revolut People and what the goal is now for businesses that can use Revolut People, and also hear about your time at Revolut.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So let's start with Revolut People. I mean the platform, Revolut People, not the people that work at Revolut. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Andrei, can you tell us what is it? What is Revolut People?
So Revolut People is a platform to help you build your dream team. So if you're a founder or anybody who is in the executive team of a company, and you want to build that dream team that achieves the goals of the company, this is the tool to go for. Is just to make an analogy, is like if a coach had the tool to build their dream football team, this would be something very similar to what a company can use to achieve that, basically. So that's what Revolut People is.
And so how can a business utilize Revolut People to build their dream team? What goes into that?
In Revolut, as a company, we believe that the right way to do talent management is to do it end-to-end. So you can't just do performance management, you do some reviews once a year, and then you have your dream team. It can't happen like that. It's a continuous process, and it starts from the very first moment someone interacts with the company. So it starts with the recruitment process, and it continues into the probation process, performance process, and then, progression and so on. So it's a process that it's end-to-end. So it's the whole employee life cycle, and you need a product that covers that whole employee life cycle to make sure that you can truly build a dream team and make sure that you have the right people coming in, the right people staying, and the right people growing in your company.
Yeah, and when we talk about Revolut, we normally talk about the financial features associated with Revolut, but we don't really think about Revolut as a human resources type of company. Joe, what does this mean for Revolut now that we're expanding into this new territory?
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of Revolut as a technology company. I think the company is super focused on its talent. Ultimately, we really have been, from the moment I came into the business, focused on how can we, as Andrei said, build a dream team and really put people in the position to be successful for the organization. And using technology is always been sort of rooted in the way the company has solved its problems. So I think it's definitely a reflection of that.
Another thing I would like to add is that as a company, we have been very successful in the last 6 or so years since I've been here. At least. And I can see that a lot of companies want a taste of that, like a taste of that success. They want to not necessarily copy it, but just get inspired from it and, just be successful like Revolut is today, And that's what this platform offers, is not only a platform to just do your people processes and do your performance and so on. It comes packed with the Revolut philosophy, and it's definitely in Revolut's DNA. It's an integral part of our culture, and this can help companies achieve a similar path to what Revolut did, of course, on their own terms and
Definitely.
with their own rules and so on.
And how did Revolut People come about?
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, very inspiring. So I think it starts in 2018. I joined the company as a data engineer. So just moved from Romania just 6 years ago, literally 6 years ago, just to work for Revolut. And I was an engineer, so I joined the company as an engineer as well. So I was doing some data engineering, managing data and so on. And Nick had this Excel sheet on his computer where he was storing the information of all the employees in the company, which was around 200 people around that time,
Okay.
so very modest, so not what it is today. But there was a problem with that, right? So the company was growing very fast and it wasn't working anymore. So Nick just asks the head of data engineering, just send me a data engineer to fix this. And so luck has it that I just joined the company, so I was working on some projects. So he said, okay, I can just borrow Andrei for a bit to fix this. And, obviously I was very junior and so meeting with the CEO. But for some reason I was bold and just said, look, I can't fix this. I don't think nobody can fix this. So why not just, I'll build a simple interface for you, a database to put all the data in, and we can use that. And I had the experience for it. So he just looked at me and said, you know what? Yeah, just let's give it a go.
Wow.
I guess the rest is history because it just grew organically from real problems that we had in the company. But yeah, it started with a performance problem. And we did look on the market. We tried to find products that were doing similar things, but nothing had this clear vision of assessing people's goals, skills, how they are in line with the company values, putting that all together and linking it to how it impacts the company goals and so on. So we build like an end-to-end talent management software, basically.
And let's dive a little deeper into that. And Joe, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the features of Revolut People and what the platform offers.
As Andrei said, the platform is really an end-to-end sort of HR management system. So from the moment you have that first interaction with a candidate to the moment that candidate becomes an employee who then goes on to progress within your organization to the point where either they leave you or like they continue to grow and grow and grow, and ultimately they stay for a really long time. The system is there basically for that whole journey. And so there are three main sort of features, if you like, that it contains. One is the recruitment system. So this is an end-to-end applicant tracking system, basically. Then, as Andrei alluded to, we then have this HR information system, which is really nicely integrated with that recruitment system. So as soon as you hire your candidate, they're going to pop up in your employee directory, and then your teams are already aware that we've got that new joiner coming, and it's time to get excited maybe for what the future could hold. And then the final piece of the puzzle is the performance management system, and that was actually where it started for Revolut, and we sort of built backwards, in fact, but that is the sort of final piece of the puzzle. So a system to manage things like your company goals, but all the way down to your employees. So everybody in your company knows exactly what you're doing and what the North Star is, what you should be working towards. And then it sort of is wrapped up in performance reviews, anytime feedback as well. We've tried to promote this culture of continuous feedback. And then we also kind of have now started building out things like promotion processes and stuff like this, really to sort of like close that loop.
I think all these features make it unique in the market, and not just because you built it, Andrei.
Yeah, for sure.
And Andrei, you had mentioned you're an engineer by trade. Can you tell me a little bit about why did you decide to make this switch from being an engineer into working on a people product-based platform?
Yeah, so I think the story goes back to when I was quite young. I think I was around 14 years old or something like that. So I was, always like setting up computers for people, installing operating systems and doing all of this stuff. But I didn't thought about it as being a serious thing. I just thought, it's a hobby. I wanted to go to medical school. I was very close to go to medical school, passed everything, all the exams and so on. And then I just thought, what do I truly like doing, So I was probably around 18, 19, and for various reasons, there were also financial reasons and so on. We didn't have a lot of money to just go to medical school in my family. So I just thought, I really like this thing. And I think there is a lot about it. And I just went into engineering school. I guess over the years, I just kept asking myself, like, what is it that I truly like doing? Like, what is it about engineering and coding specifically that makes me so happy? Because it really made me happy. I went through some really difficult times when I was in university, and I think coding was that thing that acted like a sort of meditation for me. I would just sit there for hours and just code and not think about anything else, just solving problems. And joining Revolut as a data engineer, I just continued that. I was just coding, and I was very happy, and moved to London, started a new life. And so when I got this opportunity, I remember my manager was thinking to move into a separate team, and he said, we have this opportunity. You can think about it if you want, but I didn't even think about it, It was just like that, because somehow I knew that, this was the right path for me. And it took a long time to realize what is it about doing the job of software engineer or product manager that is so exciting. And it was all about being able to solve problems and the satisfaction that you get from solving a really difficult problem and being creative about it. These are the two things,
Yeah, and I think seizing opportunities. You mentioned that you relocated and you moved to London to take an opportunity, and then another opportunity presented itself and you took that as well. So there's 100%. A good message there too.
I always welcome challenges and a higher responsibility if it appears. So I'm not saying no to it. Even if it's scary, it might be the right thing for you. It might mean it's the thing that gets you outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. So, yeah.
And Joe, were you around for the inception of Revolut People as well?
Not quite. But when I came into the frame was, I think it was at a really interesting time for the company and for the product as well. I started in 2020, and at that point, I think it had been going for a year or so. And I remember we were still using sort of other systems at the same time. And when I started, I was working in recruitment. So worked in recruitment for about a year and saw just the sheer scale of the work that goes into people and talent at Revolut. We were hiring At that point, we went from when I started 2,000 employees to 5,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
So it was pretty insane. And then what sort of like happened after that, where we ended up finding ourselves, was that we were struggling quite a bit with the quality of the people that were coming into the business. It's difficult to maintain the same level of, let's say, excellence due to the large numbers that were coming in, basically. And so I found myself working on a project with Andrei. We were doing a probation problem together. And so that was sort of my first, I would say, interaction with the product. I had some exposure myself to sort of how the platform could solve real business problems. And now we've started, as I say, pushing that out to other businesses and hopefully seeing the same benefits.
And what was your experience before working at Revolut?
I've been in London my whole life, and then went off to university in Manchester just to get a bit of experience in a different part of the UK. Amazing place. Studied chemical engineering, mainly because I think I really enjoyed a similar kind of experience of just solving difficult problems. But it was all sort of tied to, I guess, maths and science. And then following that, sort of found myself working in manufacturing, which made a lot of sense coming from chemical engineering. But as I started to do that, I worked there for a couple of years. I found that the pace of what we were doing just wasn't quite what I really wanted to see. We just couldn't make changes at the speed we wanted to. And so one of like my close friends, he came to Revolut first, and he was the one who actually sort of, I guess, inspired me. We had a chat and he said, "Hey, I've been here now for 3-4 months and it's awesome," basically. Like, I would never look back. And then I kind of went away and I really mulled over it for a while, and then thought, you know what? All of the things that I didn't like about manufacturing sounded completely different. But the things that I did like, which was solving problems from first principles, it all existed the same. And so that was really, I think, the motivating factor for me. And then what you realize quite quickly is that actually you're overwhelmed maybe by sort of something that's completely different. Really different ways of doing things. And initially you feel like, I'm not sure whether this is the right place for me, maybe. But then over time you start to sort of peel things back and realize that at the core, the way the work is being done is really the same. And I found I was able to transfer a lot of the skills that I had great managers and good mentors in the company that helped me to get there. And then haven't looked back since. Yeah.
And now you're head of operations for Revolut People. So you've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a blessing. I've got a lot to thank Andrei for actually bringing me onto the project and giving me a lot of space and room to sort of grow and take more responsibility. But it's
and developing it, you know.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, if it didn't exist, I don't think we'd be here today. But no, it's been a pretty cool project, and yeah, really excited to see where it goes next.
Yeah, I think we all are. And now Revolut People, it's up and running, and we use it every day because we work here. So it's actually something that we do use. But what's the long-term goal for Revolut People as a platform?
The biggest thing for us, I think, is really just making sure that customers can actually find the value from the platform, can really achieve whatever it is that they want from it. Because really that's all it is. It's meant to be an enabler for your business. And ultimately, we're not really happy until we feel like customers have actually achieved their goals. It could be that, they really want to promote a kind of culture within their business and have a workplace that they can be proud of. It could be all kinds of things, but the platform is there to really help them do that.
And I think that goes along with Revolut's overall ethos of making things better, improving things. And the way to do that is by listening to customers and making those changes, right? What do customers that are actually using it want to see? How can we make it better? And we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, one thing that from the moment I came into the company I found amazing was the speed that we iterate, the speed that we do that at the same time with balancing this idea of quality.
Yeah.
We've applied the same principles to Revolut People, and so far I think the feedback that we've got has been really positive.
And the whole goal, I think, ultimately is to deliver wow.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about that every day, and it's something that we really try to speak into existence.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insider Views. This podcast is brought to you by Revolut People. Revolut People is our very own people management platform. It's been the engine behind our growth, helping us go from 250 employees to over 10,000 in just 5 years. From performance management to recruitment and hiring, we're now helping other businesses that experience the same problems that we did as a growing tech company. Find out more at revolutpeople.com. Revolut People is only available in the UK and the European Economic Area. Terms and subscription fees apply. And we're back on the Revolut Insider podcast here with George and Andrei Oprisor, who's our head of Revolut People, and Joseph Baugh, who is our head of operations for Revolut People. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Great to be back.
Nice to be back.
Before the break, you both had mentioned that you had slightly different career paths before joining Revolut. Joe, you were in manufacturing. Andrei, you started as an engineer and moved your way into the product world. What do you think this says about Revolut as a company?
Yeah, I think it's just we welcome people from all backgrounds as long as they, have this desire to like solve problems and they want to make a big impact in the world, right? So that's what Revolut is all about.
And I think that a lot of people maybe put themselves in a box of, okay, I'm doing this job, I have these skills, and you kind of don't break out of that. But a lot of opportunities, as you both know, lie when we do take those risks, when we do kind of think a little bit beyond what our normal realm is.
100%. So yeah, joining Revolut, that changes for you. So if you're used to like just do the same thing all the time and just get stuck in your skill set, as you said, Revolut is going to push you outside of that comfort zone. And I think that's what Revolut is all about. So you can end up, how I joined as a data engineer, and then I worked as a backend engineer, then I worked as a product manager, then, senior product manager, head of product, now head of department and so on. And that's what it's all about. And yeah, Revolut just puts you in that position. The stuff you learn is the most important thing that you get in Revolut.
I think those learnings are what really help you achieve career development. And Joe, and you were working in recruitment, so I think you can probably talk a little bit more about this, but when people say, I want career development, what does that mean? What does that look like? But I think learning these new things and exposing yourself to new areas is kind of what gives you that motivation and the knowledge to develop literally in your career.
No, absolutely. I think it can be quite easy to say, this is what I want to do because that's, something that you've done and you can see the path for that particular sort of thing, whatever it could be. It could be a role, it could be a kind of problem. But like you say, go into a business like Revolut where you get such a variety of exposure to different things. I think it really opens your eyes to the possibilities. Doesn't mean that you change the thing that you really enjoy and the thing you want to do, but it just gives you that perspective that allows you to make a more sort of well-rounded decision. And to the point of, I think, getting out of your comfort zone, because that's something that like really resonates with me. I mean, especially like coming from manufacturing where I was never particularly technical. It wasn't really something that's needed in manufacturing. It's it's a little bit behind a company like Revolut. There is this feeling sometimes when you come in that you can have imposter syndrome, you get put into situations because people trust you. But I think every time that you have a situation like that always passes, and then you look back and you say, that was a moment when I figured something out. Something happened in that time to allow me to get out of that situation. And that is really, I think, where the real growth happens.
Mm-hmm. And speaking about stepping outside your comfort zone, I mean, Andrei, you relocated from Romania to London and took this leap of faith to start a new job in a new country, a new city. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was a big move for me. It's difficult to leave everything behind, I was 25, 26 or so it was a big change for me, a cultural shift as well, how people perceive things. Romania is, one of those like culture wars in which like everybody is very close to each other, and, you go in the tube and everybody talks to everybody and so on. And you move to London and you feel like everybody minds their own business and you think they're like, it's strange. And it took some time until I adapted to the culture, but I never looked back. I think it's not that I left Romania because I was unhappy or anything like that. It was all about, what I was telling you, that desire to have a bigger impact, to work somewhere where I can get the skills and learn the things that I needed to, one day build my own product. And I think that's what it's all about, getting outside of that comfort zone can be very rewarding.
And Joe, you mentioned earlier, this imposter syndrome, and sometimes it can be a bit intimidating to start a new job, especially if it's a fast-paced environment like Revolut. What tips do you have for people that may be starting in a new workplace?
Yeah, I think it can often feel a bit overwhelming. I think it's a combination of you come in and there's so much information. As you say, it could be a new culture, a new location, new coworkers that you need to kind of get to know. The biggest thing, especially when you start, I would say, is just to listen to the people around you and just get to understand sort of the vibe and really get to know the people. I think when you build those kind of relationships, you build trust. People will give you an opportunity and they'll give you freedom to kind of learn and grow. And then as time kind of progresses, I think the most important thing is to really go back to the point of taking everything from first principles, focus on just asking why for everything. But that's the kind of culture. And I think when people go into new businesses, I think it's good to go in with a fresh pair of eyes. It's good to ask questions and it's good to not just settle for the status quo, but look for opportunities to make a mark. And I think if you do that, then you'll be recognized for that, and you'll get more and more opportunities as a result.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And, as Revolut continues to grow, we have over 10,000 employees, but we still have this startup mentality. Like, what does that say about opportunities that lie within Revolut?
To take our case as the example, I think it's a really interesting one, just because we are pretty much operating like a startup within, as you say, a 10,000 person strong organization. So the dynamics are just so exciting. There's about 40 of us, and we have people of all different kinds of backgrounds working in all different kinds of functions. And I think one thing that we all kind of share is a passion for the problem that we're solving, and a sort of drive to achieve the goals that we've been talking about today. And that really speaks to Revolut as a business, and the culture, and the fact that we really look for people that are, as we kind of mentioned, really motivated, really driven. And I think as a result, people grab a lot of ownership, and you get a lot of ownership as well. And I think when you bring those things together, it creates what can be a really amazing environment to work in.
And how can other companies create a similar environment as Revolut using Revolut People?
It all sums up to what I just mentioned about the philosophy of the product. If you want the Revolut way, you need this connection between these three parts, which is like performance management, recruitment, and HR management. I think the three of them are just so tightly like locked together that it's very hard to just buy three products, put them together, and end up with something. The great thing about the platform is that it just makes that very easy to do. Even the onboarding process, it made it so easy for companies that are, small companies, medium companies, very large companies like Revolut to go in and do it. And as we mentioned before, it's not only about financial or technology companies. Like, honestly, we have companies from all sorts of sectors that are
restaurants.
Oh, well,
yeah, exactly, right. Hospitality and so on. So it works for all of them. And I think the other thing about Revolut is that we are a global company. You can't just like buy HR product, you use it in UK, and then it wouldn't work. Like, Revolut is all about transparency, all about like everybody being together in a place and collaborating. And you walk around the office and you see it, like, it, obviously you've been working here for some time, but you see the CEO like sitting on the same chair that we sit on, and the CTO next to him and so on. So it's a very open culture, and the product is designed around that idea, being open. And not only open for like, London or so on. We have people working everywhere. And that's the kind of thing that the platform reflects as well. It's meant to be a global platform to adapt to the needs of middle, big size companies that, are operating in all sorts of sectors.
And what's next for Revolut People?
What's next? I think we've got a lot of ambitions, definitely, for the platform over the next few years. Our goal really is just to continue to grow the number of customers that we have, and ultimately sitting alongside our business platform and our retail platform is really one of those pillars. So it's a pretty ambitious goal, I think, and we've seen that we've got a lot to live up to. The other products, they've acquired customers at a speed that for us with the stage we're at, it could only be our wildest dreams really. But I think that's the ambition, and that's really what we've got to head down and we're thinking about.
Also, right now we are available in the UK and Europe. So these are the locations we started with, and we are planning to expand into the US, Asia, and Pacific area as well in the next years.
And these areas can expect to use Revolut People in the next year or so?
In the next probably year or 2 years.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing, though, to keep in mind is that if you do have employees in these locations, you can still use the system today. So as long as your business is based in, or you have an entity that's based in the UK or in Europe, then the system is open, is global.
It's great. All right. So we heard what's next for Revolut People, but what's next for Andrei and Joe?
So for me, I think the past year since we went live has been pretty crazy. So some time off is definitely overdue, and I think that's one of the great things about being here is that we definitely really push ourselves when we've all got our head down and we're in the office, but then we get a lot of time to actually sort of just recharge, reset. And often I find that those first few weeks off the back of a holiday is when you really get your best things done. So I think that will be me, just taking a few weeks off and really just relaxing.
Good for you. Beach, mountains?
I think it's going to be a bit of the beach. I'm planning to go to Bali, so
oh, nice.
Might also try my hand at surfing as well.
Okay, good luck.
I probably will need it.
What about for you, Andrei?
I think for me, professionally, I'm trying to grow a bit more into this new role that I have as head of department, general manager. So it will be a lot of like basically coaching the people around to take over some of the responsibilities I have and so on. On a personal level, I need to get my citizenship soon. So I've been here 6 years. So I'm eagerly waiting for the moment. After I get it, I'll be the guy who like doesn't talk to anybody in the tube. So.
Great. Well, I just have one more question for you both is what advice would you give to yourself when you're just starting out in your career?
I would say, firstly, find things you enjoy to do. And then after that, try to do as many of them as you can.
Okay.
With doing that, you'll eventually find the thing that, really sticks with you, and you'll probably find where you'll be for the long term.
I can follow that, and I would say, double down on the idea of like find something that you truly enjoy doing. Figure out what that thing is. Like for me, it was solving very hard problems, the same as Joseph. I like to be creative. Then you need to have a vision of what is it that you want to get to, right? And it's about the vision, but it's not about like having like a strict path that you need to follow to get there, because life is not about that. Like it's not going to be a straight path. That's for sure. Like I can guarantee that.
You're great, walking examples
journey.
of that.
So it's all about like knowing what that end goal is if you want, and then just sticking to that. And then whatever path takes you there, it doesn't matter. But it's all about like, keeping in mind that, hey, this is the thing I want to do. And looking back at some of these experiences that I had, and me and Joseph, I think we both look fondly to the lessons we learned. And it was more about the journey than the actual achievements,
Yeah.
So.
There's this great poem by Cavafy, who's a Greek writer, called Ithaca. And he's writing about the journey and not so much about the destination. Yeah.
100%.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. I really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences with me and with our listeners.
Thank you for having us. It's been great.
It's been great, Alex. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Revolut Insider and follow our podcast so you don't miss an episode.